N'Keal Harry was an absolute steal at 32. What are you guys talking about? Forget Tom Brady's passing numbers. He's the GOAT because he was the best punter in the NFL. I take Johnny Hekker over Patrick Mahomes to be my quarterback any day.
Welcome to the No Punt Intended Sportscast with your host, Parody07.
Welcome back to the No Punt Intended Sportscast. I'm your host, Guy, and I'm here with, as always, the Dawgs. And my mic is back to crispy Bill Bixby, so I'm grateful for that. I've got the headphones, the right headphones in. My input and output is correct, and it didn't switch out as well as Kirk Cousins did to Joshua Dobbs. But I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that it's the user interface, like the Atlanta Hawks defense, is pretty easy to understand. So we'll have to move on from that and try to keep it mellow here. But another big week in the NFL. Obviously, some big wins for people like the Kansas City Chiefs, the Minnesota Vikings, the Cincinnati Bengals, once again getting a big win against the Buffalo Bills. And honestly, that defense making Mr. Allen look a little bit pedestrian. It's almost
to be fair, a lot of teams have made Josh Allen look pedestrian.
It's almost like Josh Allen is overrated. Who would have ever thought that Josh Allen might not be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL? Oh my gosh, the blasphemy. But that's not to take away from his physical attributes. He is obviously a grown man, if I've ever seen one, with a baby face nonetheless, but he is still a grown man.
Big, strong, muscular man.
Yeah.
Pause.
I will tell you, though, I watched some college ball this weekend. I think I was watching the Colorado game, and I had no clue that another big, tall, strong man is still doing football work, and Brock Osweiler was calling the game. So that was interesting. So if you ever lose sight of Josh Allen on the football field, check on a Colorado game. Maybe it'll be the replacement for when Brock Osweiler inevitably becomes the next Troy Aikman behind the mic. Who knows?
Yeah.
But enough of that. I'm sure that people are super eager, anxious, overwhelmed with anticipation for the Dogs of the Week, for the prediction time, and obviously for the good, bad, and the coaching. So we're going to do that in reverse order, obviously. So let's go ahead and start with LB. Unfortunately, your win streak stopped at 1, my friend.
Yeah, it sure did. And that might be the only one we get all season, fellas.
Well, at the very least, we all kind of go back to normal here. New England lost, the Panthers lost, and the Chiefs won. So and we're all back in our regular seats, I guess. But
yes.
From what I could tell, maybe Mr. Stroud just had a bad day, and your offensive line just happened to handle what was going on with that Texans front, but not the case with the Colts. What happened, my friend?
Dude, anything bad that could happen did happen. It seems like. That was a rough one, boys. My goodness, I thought that Carolina might have a little juice coming into the home game against the Colts after a big time win against CJ Stroud and the Texans. I was wrong. Go figure. We got our butt kicked. Plain and simple. We look like crap, and that is putting it mildly. Again, if it weren't for having Guy edit out a bunch of swear words, I would certainly be letting him loose because they are garbage. But I'll save you the work from censoring me and my frustrations.
I appreciate it.
Frustrated Carolina Panthers fan who I think can speak on behalf of 90% of the Panthers fans. But no, it's bad in Carolina. But let me qualify this because I don't want to be like every, you know, armchair quarterback and the sky's falling and this isn't the answer. Like, I'll be very clear. I wanted CJ Stroud from day one. That hasn't been the case. So be it. We have to live with that. So I want Bryce Young to work out. I want him to have all the success that he can bring, and like CJ Stroud's had and Cam Newton had for us in the past. Like, I want that to be the case. I want him to do well. I want our team to succeed. I could give two craps whether I'm, personally satisfied with my, draft pick working out or not. Like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I just want to see my team win, and we haven't won in 6 years. So I've been listening to, obviously, Carolina Panthers talk shows around the region and things like that. And, man, people are dogging Bryce. And, listen, he had a terrible game. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. He threw 3 picks, 2 of them being 2 pick sixes. It certainly seemed like he took a step back this week, so that is clearly the bad. Because I would argue the game before that, the Texans game, was probably his best game. Despite the struggles we had on offense and protecting him and all that stuff. I would say he followed up his best game of the season with his worst game. And again, as the quarterback of an NFL team, you're going to take all the blame, whether you win, and you're going to take majority of the credit when you win, and blame if you lose. Excuse me. But man, he just needs help. Like, he needs so much help. It's not even funny. Our offensive line is horrible. No one, and I told y'all this on text and outside the pod. You could put any quarterback in that offense and in that situation, and the result would be the same.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer that we would still have 1 win. Okay, you can maybe say, oh, you'd have 2 or 3 wins. Okay, well, that's no different. Our season's still over.
Yeah.
1 win to 3 wins, that's no different. We're okay. What's the point? You know what I mean? We're still garbage. We're still last in the division with no sign of improvement. So again, like, I understand the Bryce Young, CJ Stroud comparison, and that's always going to be a thing as long as they're in the league, especially when their seasons are going to totally different directions and trajectories. I understand that. It frustrates the crap out of me. Sure, just as much as anybody. However, we have to look at the totality of the circumstances. Like, it's not a one player fix all thing. We could put, prime Tom Brady in this system, in this team. We're still not doing anything. We can't protect him. We have no playmakers to get the ball to. It's literally borderline hopeless offensively. And that's horrible. I mean, we invested so much to go get Bryce. You would think going forward that they're going to do everything in their power to, make good on their investment. Mm-hmm. Again, that would be the logical thing, but this team seems to do everything illogically. Yeah. And I have no confidence in their front office, so who knows? We'll see. But yeah, man, the bad is clearly the offensive line struggles, no playmakers, and the penalties. My goodness. Going into the Colts game, we had the second most false start penalties in the NFL. To me, that's unacceptable.
Facts.
That is clearly a lack of mental discipline, a lack of structure, a lack of being on the same page. Not being like that should, in my opinion, that should never happen. You can get away with holdings and face masks and things going on to the play, because once the play's going, it's chaos.
Yeah.
But pre-snap penalties, lining up off sides, which we did, that extended the Colts drive that led to points early, should never happen. It was 4th and 1. They punted the ball to us. Our punt returner fair caught it. Our offense is jogging on the field, and guess what? There's laundry on their field. There's a freaking yellow flag lined up in the neutral zone. First down. Listen here, fellas. We're not good enough to be giving up possessions and free yards. We've scored 13 points in an NFL game. We have 60 minutes, and we scored 13 points. We scored 1 touchdown on offense. 1. That's unbelievable. You watch some of these teams, they score one touchdown
a quarter.
Yeah. So sometimes multiple. It's mind-boggling the disparity between good NFL teams and bad NFL teams.
Mm.
What's crazy too, like I've said this year in, week in and week out, like our defense isn't playing bad.
Mm.
Going into that week, they were the 12th overall defense in the NFL, but 30th in points allowed. And again, the reason they're 30th in points allowed is because our offense can't move the ball, and we're continuously putting them in the back. We don't play complementary ball. We can't continuously ask, the defense to bail the offense out. That's not how it works.
Right.
You maybe get lucky and get a turnover here or there, and your defense bails you out. But when we're going into week, that was week 9 or whatever it was, week 10, you're 1-7, morale's already low. Like, the dam's busted, guys. There's no clog in this league. I mean, there's nothing we can do to help the team out offensively, which is the root of all of our struggles, which is a reflection on the poor management of this team and construction of this team, which I have a huge issue with the front office, and I've continued to have an issue with them because their moves and their decisions have continuously failed. And I don't understand how you can be wrong this often. Like you're an NFL GM, head coach, owner. You would think at some point you're going to start making good decisions that you'll see the fruits of these decisions. But like the Miles Sanders trade, the Hayden Hurst pickup have been horrible. We paid Miles Sanders $25 million for what? 3 lost fumbles and a touchdown and like maybe 250 yards rushing. Hayden Hurst, he has less than 20 receptions on the season. I mean, what are we doing? So it's terrible, man. And we changed offensive play callers. So what? It doesn't matter. The guy's more aggressive. But guess what? He's more aggressive, which, okay, I like the aggressive play calling. I like that. I really do. But, dude, we can't block. So you can't call up these shots if Bryce doesn't have time to take shots downfield. Like, at some point, we can't be greedy. We got to play with the cards we've been dealt. A very bad hand. No one's disputing that. But guess what? You're paid millions and millions of dollars to figure this crap out and to put some competence on the football field. Week in and week out, it is sheer incompetence from the top down. There's this quote I heard one time. It's some people can call plays, but the great ones call games.
That's good.
And that to me couldn't be more true. It's like anybody can get there and call some plays together, right? Oh, let's look at the call sheet. 3rd and 1. Okay, we're doing this. 1st and 10, doing this. Okay, cool. But to have a philosophy, a game plan, to go out and execute it, and everything be, tied together. It's like poetry in motion, man. Like, that's what separates the coaches from the great coaches. And then the great coaches to the elite, the Super Bowl winners, the contenders every year. We just don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's frustrating, man. It's just, and again, I know I'm nitpicking here, and it ultimately, it did matter, but it ultimately didn't matter, was this terrible penalty called on Xavier Woods. I was fussing to you about it, guy, off on text when it happened. Like,
yeah,
if we're just going to turn this thing into flag football, let's go ahead and do it. Rip the Band-Aid off. But I mean, even the receiver, Michael Pittman, said, "Yeah, sometimes you just get got, and I got got." Like, he thought it was a clean hit, and it was a clean hit. I mean, the guy, our safety hit the receiver coming across the middle in the shoulder pads and chest area where he's protected. Like, it's not like he lunged and hit him in the head or taking out their knees, which no one wants to get hit in the knees. That's a career ender, and again, that would have gotten us off the field. 2 plays later, Indianapolis scores their only offensive touchdown. Indianapolis scored 27 points, 14 at the hands of Bryce Young throwing Kenny Moore 2 pick sixes, and then extended a play and drive from a penalty, and then the lining up off sides. So that's 17 points.
Yikes.
Okay, if we take 17 points off the board, guess what? We have a chance to win that game 13-10. Now, will that happen? Who knows? But guess what? You're not winning games spotting teams 17 points. Not in this league. Not with that offense. So I sound like a broken record. I know no one cares. Why would we care? We're the most relevant franchise in all of pro sports. I accept that. Dude, I don't even care. I don't know why I watch the games anymore. Like, I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment. But hey,
I mean, even
I'm a clown. I'll be watching it tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football. Okay, whatever. I'll be there. I'll be complaining next time. But no, man, it's just frustrating, and everybody's fed up with it. You know.
Yeah, you've been the only one of us three to actually go to a game while we've been doing the pod. It's probably because the seats are so cheap because your team is so bad.
Dude, it's terrible, and that was a Monday night game, right?
Yeah,
Week 2.
Yeah,
it was. I wouldn't say a bad atmosphere, but it wasn't the Monday night atmosphere I was thinking in the Queen City when you got the first overall draft pick coming to play as the literal season opener, the first time ever in his career playing in front of the home crowd. Dude, it was probably 60-40 in terms of fan split between Carolina being 60% and the New Orleans Saints being 40%.
That's wild.
Since that game, you know, Carolina has quote unquote home games at Bank of America Stadium. They're home games on paper. But let me tell you, the visiting team, you might as well call that a home game because our stadium gets overrun by opposing team's fans. And guess what? I don't blame them. Dude, you come to Bank of America Stadium, you're visiting. Oh, guess what? We got a 90% chance of winning this game because Carolina is trash. I don't blame them, man. And guess who we got coming to town after this Thursday night game against the Bears? We got the Dallas Cowboys, and you know they roll deep. Dude, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 80% Cowboys fans in there. Yeah. I really would. That's pitiful. I mean, it's wild, dude. Like the whole front office, the whole ownership has totally failed the fan. They try to rip us off. You got to pay X amount of money to get into a stadium, and then you got to pay for parking. You got to pay $20 for a water and $18 for a hot dog. For what? for me to watch Carolina suck? Dude, I can do that at home from my couch for free, and I can cry. No one will see me cry there. I'm not paying $300 to come watch this bum team. You got to be out of my mind. You got to be kidding me, coach. It's terrible, man. It's terrible. I'm done ranting. No one cares about this bum team. I don't even care about it. I'm just watching. I just yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, anyways, yeah, Carolina plays Thursday night. The Bears and my boy Tyson Bay is starting. So I want to go on record and say I hope Tyson throws for 500 yards and we lose by 50. I do. I don't care. I'm done. I don't care. I'm pulling for players now. I want to see Thielen do well. I want to see Bryce do well. I want to see McCaffrey do well out west. Panthers suck. I don't care. What you want me to say? They suck.
I was gonna go through and read some of your texts because they're so awesome. And
please do. I don't even know what I said. They'd be hilarious, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, just a couple of them here, and I'll give you guys a time frame. So it was a 4:15 or a 4:30 game.
Yeah,
I get a text at 5:34. Completely unprompted. Panthers are the worst team and franchise in the history of the NFL. I think the word that sums up the state of my fanhood with Carolina is disgust. I can't fathom how nonsensical and bad this team can run. It is now my professional and life goal to bring a Super Bowl to Carolina. I've got to become GM somehow, but that is my life goal career otherwise. I'm dead serious.
Yep. Hey, I'm glad we got that on record. So 50 years now, we can look back on hoisting the Lombardi down here. Dude, that'd be hilarious. But yeah, man, no joke. Like, if this is the product that Scott Fitter and David Tepper's putting on the field, hey, I got to win more in one game a season. I can do that.
Jeez.
I can do that. I can win more in one game.
Bring back the car salesman for your offensive coordinator, right?
Dude, you just got to know how to delegate, man, honestly. And these people, they don't know what the heck they're doing, in my opinion. Now, it's easy to say from the cheap seats. Obviously, no job in the NFL is easy, right? I'm not here to say that.
Right.
But my goodness, how can you be this bad for this long? You know, like at some point, something would have to go your way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. You know why? Because they keep doubling down on bad decisions.
Yeah.
They keep trying to dig themselves out of a hole, and all they do is dig their hole deeper.
Jeez.
It's just, at some point, you got to just man up, accept your losses, and cut bait and move on. And we just don't do that.
I have to say that has to be a top 3 rant that we've heard, and we've heard some pretty good rants. That's definitely your best one, LB. But I think that's at least top 3, if not top 2, that we've had.
I'm stacking this soapbox taller, so my inevitable jump is quickened when I splatter on the floor.
Goodness.
I'm over it, man. I'm over it. But guess what? I'm a clown. I'm going to watch the whole game tomorrow night, so I can't even be mad. I do it to myself.
Hey, if anybody watching is an artist, feel free to make a quick animatic of LB jumping off the soapbox, and we'll include it in our outro.
Please do. That'd be awesome. I would seriously consider paying for something like that just for my own personal enjoyment, because I don't get any enjoyment watching this team. They suck,
dude. The likeness that I use cost me $25, and I got the friends and family discount. So let me so it ain't cheap. So yeah. So but anyways, it's time to get to the meat of this positive sandwich with depression bread. Is we've become
that was a big old loaf of bread right there.
Yeah, he just took the whole
butt end of the bread.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
He took the entire loaf of bread and cut it in half, and he's got this little slice of like thinly sliced turkey.
Yes,
and that's your sandwich. I love it. But obviously, you have all the time you need, Mr. Hound, to explain why the Chiefs are the best team to ever exist, and why the 2023 edition is currently the best organized football team on the planet. Go ahead, just let us hear it. This is what the people want. This is content, right? Contrasting the misfortunes of others with the victories of those who try to pick them up with their victories that are completely irrelevant to them.
Yes.
Or at their expense in some instances.
Yeah.
But regardless, go ahead, Hound. Let's hear about these Kansas City Chiefs and how in the world they won that game without Taylor Swift being there.
Oh yeah. Well, it was a good game. I was kind of nervous about this game, to be totally honest. I didn't have a whole lot of confidence coming out of that Broncos loss, because that was not a pretty game. But we went down to Germany. Well, it turned out pretty good. This is the first time we've actually had to play against Tyreek Hill since we've traded him. So that was kind of an exciting storyline. And apparently Tyreek Hill had said that he had a whole celebration planned for if he scored a touchdown in the game. And that he was going to point at Andy Reid and say that he shouldn't have traded him. I will admit, Tyreek Hill, he did contribute to 7 points being scored in the Chiefs game, but it happened to be for the Kansas City Chiefs because he fumbled the football, which goes into the best thing that's happened for the Kansas City Chiefs is having, at the very least, a top 3 defense in the NFL. We shut out the Dolphins offense in the first half completely, which is the first time that's happened this year for the Dolphins. So that's great. And overall, we allowed 14 points. And we held Tua to only 193 passing yards, which is the least amount of passing yards he's passed all season. We held Tyreek Hill to 62 yards, which is pretty good for Tyreek Hill. So yeah, pretty good game for the defense overall. And what's even crazier is that the 2 touchdowns that the Dolphins scored, which came in the third quarter, one of those was an 80-yard drive. They just marched down the field. The other one came off of was a 27-yard drive for the Dolphins because we fumbled the ball on our own 27-yard line, and then they did 4 plays into a touchdown. So again, kind of a similar theme from last week where turnovers kind of just lead directly into touchdowns. But we only had 1 turnover on offense, so that's a plus compared to the 5 we had against the Denver Broncos. So that helped a lot.
Sure.
Now let's go into some not great, per se, because it wasn't a perfect game. Offense, still not on fire or to to the potential that we expect from a Kansas City offense. We were shut out in the second half, but I have a feeling, and I don't know what your guys' experiences are with your with your coaches, especially you guy with Bill Belichick. I don't know what his philosophy or game theory is with coaching during games.
Mm-hmm.
But Andy Reid has a habit of trying to not shut out teams per se. He won't just keep putting, he won't just keep going roughshod over teams for 4 whole quarters. If he's up already, he'll play it super safe, not show a whole lot of new plays, that sort of thing. Which I think happened in this game when we were up 21-0. Andy Reid played it safe. He didn't here's an interesting stat is that Rashee Rice scored a touchdown in the first half, right? He's a rookie wide receiver. He has had a lot of potential, right? He's been getting more catches in each game. He was not targeted a single time in the second half, which is odd. Especially, since he was actually not doing horribly in the first half. We even drew up a running play for our backup running back named LaMichael Pirine.
Ooh, I like Pirine.
I don't think it's this. I don't know if it's the same guy or if it's another guy with the same last name. But this is the only carry he's had all season.
Interesting.
For 1 yard. But
hey.
And that's with having Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon on the team.
Yeah.
So Clyde Edwards-Helaire was sick or out for the game, so that's why this guy was in.
Yeah. Sick, quotation marks.
Yes. Cough, cough.
Cough, yeah.
But, yeah, this guy, I don't think it's the same one that,
because
I think because...
Yeah, the Pirine guy used to play for the Jets. That's the guy.
I guess this might be the same guy from that.
Yeah.
Although he actually didn't play at all in 2022, so that's an interesting.
Yeah. I remember him getting hurt.
Yeah. So, anyways, we decided to give him a run, and it didn't work. But another interesting tidbit is that Travis Kelce had his least amount of receiving yards in 5 years in this game.
It's too far away from his honey.
Exactly. It's just, it's just going to get worse. If she doesn't come back soon, what's going to happen when he starts getting to the negative yards? I don't know.
Yeah.
But and then another player that people aren't talking about as much as having not performed well is Chris Jones. For 2 straight games now, he hasn't had a sack, and he only had 1 tackle in this game. So that's a little bit concerning, but who knows what's happening with him?
Yeah.
We could just be rotating more players in, and again, we probably took him out of the game for more plays when we were up 21-0 just to see how things go.
Right.
The other thing that killed our offense, though, truly was penalties. So this week, no turnover. We only had 1 turnover, which is great. I'll take that. I'll take only having 1 turnover on offense. But we had 9 penalties again. And 2 of those penalties were offensive holding penalties that came down on 3rd down plays, which were converted, except that we had offensive holding on those plays in the second half. So our first 2 drives on offense in the second half, we punted the ball both times. But if we hadn't had those penalties on 3rd down, each time Patrick Mahomes had ran the ball for a 3rd down conversion, but then it got called back. So, if we can get rid of the penalties, we probably would have had at least a few more points on the board. Who knows? But overall, a win's a win against a team that a lot of people had, high hopes for with the Dolphins. It really showed how good our defense was. And our offense didn't play great, but it didn't shoot itself in the foot. And if you have a great defense, perhaps the most important thing is to have an offense that doesn't, shoot itself in the foot as much. So I'll take how our offense played. I think we'll get a little bit better over time. But I think the one thing that is confusing people right now with the Kansas City Chiefs, because people look at the record of the Kansas City Chiefs being 7-2. That's great. But a lot of people probably aren't very confident in the Chiefs right now, right? I would think most people aren't because of how bad their offense is playing. But it's kind of, you have to look at the Chiefs now in a different perspective. We're used to looking at the Chiefs in the perspective of all of their success is dependent on how good their offense is. Like, if they've got a really good offense, that's how they win games, and that's about it. But now we have to look at this as a team that is defensive and only has to score 3 touchdowns in a game to win. Most teams, like if you look at the Patriots dynasty, if you look even at like when the Seahawks went to back-to-back Super Bowls, those teams were led by their defenses. And we didn't even really think about the fact that they only scored 2 or 3 times on offense because they didn't need to. But with the Chiefs, it's kind of having to shift our perspective at looking at this team and evaluating this team because we're so used to them scoring, 30 points a game. But now we've got to look at this team as being, hey, if they score 24 points against you, they have a good shot at winning straight up because you probably aren't going to. So anyways, yeah, good win. I'm happy with it. And we have a bye week this week. So hopefully our players can get all rested going into that Eagles game.
Yeah, the road doesn't get any easier for you. But if you got, yeah, you are a relatively respectable fan, so I don't anticipate you being insufferable. But some of my other friends that may be Kansas City Chief bandwagoners will be insufferable if they beat the Eagles. But what's even worse than an insufferable Kansas City Chiefs fan is an insufferable Eagles fan. So of course I'll be rooting for Patrick Mahomes, and I hope Taylor Swift shows up so that Travis Kelce can give us more instances for me to put in the Swelsey intro because I had a lot of fun putting that together. So and for your information, Mr. Hound, Bill Belichick in his time with the New England Patriots has pitched 14 shutouts. So I think he enjoys pulling a shutout when he can.
Yeah. Like I wasn't sure what his philosophy on that was.
Yeah, but he's a defensive guy and he's pretty proud about it. So I know their
defense. It's not quite as important if you show your hand quite as much because you're crafting to that team. So
right, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. And now we get to go back to hooting and hollering about how bad a team is. And I'm
depression,
right? And I mean, I don't know what I need to get myself hyped about this team, honestly, because anytime Mac made a throw over 20 yards, one of two things happened. Either he missed the guy, which happened a couple times, or it went right through the receiver's hands. Matt had some dots in the Commanders game. The best throw, once again, was dropped right through the hands of Jalen Reagor. I appreciate Jalen Reagor being on the field because I want to see what he has, and I think the rest of the season should be basically, especially on offense, a time to experiment, to see what we can do, what we do well, what we don't do well, what combinations of receivers work well together, how much we can, when we have Jalen Reagor, Demario Douglas, and Tyquan Thornton on the field at the same time, and if just for kicks throw Mike Gesicki in at tight end, that's one of the faster, just objectively speaking, one of the faster receiving lineups in the NFL for sure. But at the same time, like if they can't catch the ball, it's about the equivalent of having a track runner out there that without any arms. Like it just it doesn't do any good. Sure, they're wide freaking open, and Mac gets the ball there because he has no arm strength. He 55 air yards down the field, like he throws it just like Tua, I guess. I don't know. It's it's like he doesn't have any arm strength at all. It's like he can't throw past 5 yards. But it is not at all the receiver's fault for letting it hit him in the hands. I mean, it's just so frustrating, and it's cost us 2 games now, because that catch from Jalen Reagor would have put us inside the 15, if I'm not mistaken, and we lost the game by 3. So you guys can kind of do the math there, but yeah, so that kind of gives you an idea how that goes. Just the receivers in general, outside of Demario Douglas, because Demario Douglas had another pretty nice game. Unfortunately, his biggest catch was ruled a non-catch, and I think, honestly, that was correct. But he did his best to sell it. He did his job. But, yeah, Mac, I don't know. Mac just decided to show up some drives, and some drives he decided not to show up. And then, but in the fourth quarter, once again, the fourth quarter has been really good to Mac. Mac has been relatively good in the fourth quarter, but man, I heavily disagree with what the commentator says. I don't know how many people were watching that game. I don't know, 12 in the entire nation, because who wants to watch Commanders Patriots this season? But man, Juju, when we go to Germany, put him on the Colts bus. My goodness, because he had simultaneously had his best game as a Patriot and cost us the game. Like, how does that happen? The commentator says that Mac shouldn't have, quote unquote, forced the ball. Number one, there could have been a pass interference / holding call called. There wasn't, because they didn't call that the entire game. They called every other penalty under the sun, but not that one, which for whatever reason really seemed to hurt New England and not Sam Howell's Commanders. But whatever. Regardless, the bottom line is, as open, Juju was as open as Juju gets, which is about, I don't know, half a yard of separation with with the corner in a position to bat the ball away. But he was actually in a position where, and Mac threw him open. Like, he was kind of open, but Mac threw him more open. And what does he do? He puts his hands on the ball and decides to just grab it and toss it to the Commander safety standing behind him. I know he dropped it, but if you're going to drop it, at the very least, get the ball on the freaking ground. My goodness. But that the missed throw to Taekwon on the first drive in the fourth quarter on a fourth down was Mac's probably worst throw of the game. His best throw of the game was to Jalen Reagor, and he dropped that throw. And then his most clutch throw was dropped by Juju Smith-Schuster. So the receivers all no bueno. Demario Douglas is the only one worth keeping around. According to those stats, I know people want Tyquan Thornton gone last week, but I wish he got more playing time. He got canned after the first quarter, which is like the third week in a row that's happened. I don't know if he's running the wrong routes, which has been what the feeling is of the past couple weeks, but I don't know. It's just they put him out, and it's like he's only part of the plan. He's only part of the plan for the initial first 15 or 10, 15 plays that they call, and then he doesn't play anymore. So I don't know what the deal is with that, but I wish they put him on the field more. I wish they would put him on the field with Demario and with Jalen Reagor at the same time, just to see what that looks like. I would sure as heck like to know what that looks like. But I mean, I don't know. Why not use the players that you're actually going to have next year versus players like Gesicki and Juju? Well, Juju's going to be around, unfortunately, but it's one of those things where I'm just so tired of Mac being let down. The offensive line didn't play terrible, but they didn't play great either. The defense, I think, kind of especially the defensive line, which I thought was going to absolutely dominate. They really didn't. They were supposed to. On paper, they're a better defensive front than they have an offensive line, but it just seemed like anytime the Commanders wanted to run the ball, they could, and whenever we wanted to run the ball, unless it was Ramondre's long run, we didn't. If you take that long run out, we basically have 50 yards rushing on like 20 carries. So it was just not a good offensive performance. The defense played okay, I guess. I mean, Jonathan Jones has played his heart out when he's out there. Jack Jones has played okay when he's out there. Miles Bryant's a dog. Christian Barmore is the most underrated defensive lineman in the league, and nobody's talking about him, and I don't care that nobody's talking about him, because I promise offensive line coaches around the league, when we play us, are talking about him. But I don't know. This team is, I think, is in a position where they really need to be trying things out. And maybe they are. Maybe because J.C. Jackson, if you haven't heard, J.C. Jackson was left in the U.S. when they left for Germany. So looks like he's not playing. And Jack Jones, I heard, along with J.C. Jackson, got penalized because they didn't start last week because because of curfew, kind of shades of Malcolm Butler type thing. But guess what? Bill Belichick didn't let Malcolm Butler play an entire Super Bowl, and his defense gave up 500 yards because of it. But it's okay, because week 8 or 9 or whatever it was against a team that doesn't matter, for a season that doesn't matter, he threw them right back in after the first quarter. So no problem. He's quote unquote learned from his mistakes. The other thing that I'm not understanding is this really delayed Foxborough flu thing, because they had to put one of our backup offensive tackles on IR because of an illness. Kayshon Boudy's had some illness issues, if I'm not mistaken. Our offensive line coach that we had to hire away from Oregon is now not going to be coaching with the team for the next couple weeks because of an illness. Who puts a coach on the injury report? I've never heard that. I know they didn't actually do it, but that's what it felt like. I don't know. I know I'm kind of just spewing thoughts, but the bottom line is this team is garbage right now, and that's okay. I really don't mind them. I mean, I do mind them being garbage, but I can see that there's flashes and pieces that can work. It's just that they need to put pieces around those pieces to make a puzzle, a picture, just something, because right now it just looks like there was a picture and then the little kid spilled coffee all over it, and now the paint is mixing with the coffee, and it's just a jumbled, chaotic mess, except for a few little bright spots, which I mean, great.
I hear you.
I
hear you, man.
It's the to kind of give you the state of the fandom and the media and that sort of thing in Boston. It's, everybody is talking about how great the Celtics are, even on the, Patriots forums and stuff like that, because we've only lost one game to this point. And if you thought some of the names on New England's roster were tough to pronounce, considering Jelani Devay and some of the guys like that, I mean, you got to deal with Kristaps Porzingis. Are you serious? On the basketball side? That, and then on top of that, I saw a post today. The picture was of Kyler Murray, and it was a glow column on how Kyler Murray is going to put Arizona back into the win column so that New England can get a better draft spot. That was literally the article. So it's the Patriots writers don't even want to write about the Patriots right now, which I don't blame them. But I think they need to be writing about how what to do from here, and I've made it very clear that the job of this season for Mac is to make himself very difficult to get rid of, and the job of the coaching staff is to figure out what works and what doesn't with what you have, and then build around that. The other thing that I think it would be a good thing, there was, if you've watched any of the New England documentaries, which you probably haven't without being a Patriots fan, but if you do, just they are a pleasure to watch, regardless of your allegiance to them or not. There's a gentleman a handful of years ago that used to work in New England, and his name was Ernie Adams. And if you don't know who he is, that's okay, because he didn't want you to know who he was. I don't remember his exact title, they basically made up a position for him, and all his job was, and it kind of sounds like something the coaches would be doing, but this guy just was on a different level. What he would do is he would look mostly on behalf of the offense, but he would do it defensively too. He would look up really, like, especially in the red zone, like situational red zone stuff. And if you watch the documentary on the Super Bowl team that beat the Seahawks, that play that Malcolm Butler had was actually a play that the Mr. Ernie Adams had actually saw on film multiple times and actually drew up a defensive play to help stop it. And the coaches coached it kind of the same way Ernie Adams drew it up. And so in a way, he was largely responsible for winning that Super Bowl. He has since retired, since he is well in years. And we haven't had that guy for a couple years. And some of the like big plays, the iconic plays, what I would call like, the NFL films plays, we haven't seen very much of them in New England for a while. And that's part of the reason why, is because Ernie Adams is no longer with us. Josh McDaniels does not have a job right now.
He's a bum.
He may be a bum head coach, but he's not a bum offensive coordinator. And I don't think he's a bum football mind.
I don't either.
I would love to see him come take Ernie Adams' spot. Now, I don't know if it'll happen this year, but his wife might kick him off the couch, before the end of the season, have him, because they still have a home in Foxborough somewhere. I don't remember exactly where, but the bottom.
What's the exact address?
Yeah, it's right next to mine. Here, I'll write it out for you. But that's kind of what I think should happen. I've had some people. My mom said that she thinks Gerard Mayo should be the next GM, and I'd rather him be the head coach and the GM position go to either Matt Crow or somebody like that. There was a report that LB sent to me that I think it was Ben Volin, who's kind of his reporting's good, but he's not always on point. But he said he said that the next head coach of the New England Patriots will be Mike Vrabel, and then Nick Caserio is going to come back to New England and run the team in the GM position. Number one, why would Tennessee ever want to get rid of the only head coach that has ever done any good for them outside of Jeff Fisher?
Facts.
And then why would Nick Caserio, who is drafted Will Anderson, CJ Stroud, Tank Dell, and a handful of other guys that are now ballers out there in Houston, want to leave what he has created, which is now starting to show some results? The report makes absolutely no sense. Sounds more like a pipe dream of what he wants rather than what could actually happen. I'm sure he actually has a source out there, but I'm sure he failed to mention that source was drunk or something. I don't know, but look, I would rather no, I'm not going to say that. I was going to say I would rather Rob Ninkovich come back than have Mike Vrabel. No, I would rather have Mike Vrabel, but I think Gerard Mayo is going to do a fantastic job when his time comes. I'm still pro Bill Belichick for 2024, and I will continue to be unless there's some sort of.
Hey, there's a former Patriots offensive coordinator who's now newly on the market again.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be. I think at one time, I do think at one time he was the next in line. Like, I genuinely think that, because he was going to be the head coach of the Colts, right? And then he turned it down after he'd already accepted it, which was a joke. But that was, again, one of those things where it kind of seemed like McDaniels was the next in line. But the Kraft family has made it public that they are in full support of Gerard Mayo becoming the next guy in some form or fashion. And they learned from their Josh McDaniels mistakes and kept Gerard Mayo from taking coordinator jobs anywhere, but only allowing him to take a handful of head coaching interviews, which obviously would be a great opportunity for him. I'm not saying he would have fixed all of the Panthers' problems, but I'm pretty sure he did interview with Mr. Temper and those guys down there. But you guys chose to go a different direction, obviously. So, what
we need to do is we need to get rid of Boo Boo Scott Fitterer. That's a start. Get rid of our GM because my goodness, our roster construction is atrocious.
Yeah. Anyways, that's done. I'm done talking about depression. I gave Mac a few props. I gave DeMario his props. The offensive line, even though we were hurt on the left tackle side, Josh McDermott wasn't a complete turnstile, but he also wasn't, 380 pounds and 6'8" like Trent Brown is. So Mac has an easier time rolling to his right, to his left. So I appreciate that, but outside of that, yeah, that's New England for you. I don't have any hot takes or nothing. I kind of rambled more than I thought I would, but that's the nature of the business. Instead of trash talking media, but on our own account, right? Because we tend to do that. I mean, Hound's gone off on Bears media. I've gone off on New England media and just media in general, and LB just is anti everything Carolina for now. Even the reporters don't know what they're talking about over there.
There's a couple good ones, but I just don't like the Bryce slander because I think that's such an easy, cheap out.
Yeah.
Well, he's a rookie.
Well, he's a rookie. He literally has no help.
Yeah.
Literally no help. So of course he's gonna look like crap. I just think it's a cheap out. Oh, let's just, it's a simple fix. So they think it's not a simple fix. You need to fix everything to really see if he pans out. But anyways,
it is kind of tough when your writers don't have much to talk about, and
there's nothing positive.
I mean, even if there was like some big like stuff going on negative, it's just like you're being a quiet bad is worse than being a loud bad, if that makes sense. And you guys are
that's what I'm saying. You're irrelevant.
Yeah. It's just tough to find something to write. However, the people in one of your arch nemesis, Mr. LB, the media for the Atlanta Falcons have had no problem finding stuff to talk about because their head coach is insane. Arthur Smith is going to be our meme of the week.
Meme! Approved!
Arthur Smith. Let me tell you a little bit about Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith, former...
The man, the myth, the meme.
Right. The former offensive coordinator of the Tennessee Titans when Tennessee was kind of rolling a little bit a couple of years ago with Derrick Henry toting the rock, Tannehill doing Tannehill type things. He's the only person on the planet to get Jonnu Smith any production because Jonnu Smith came to New England, didn't do diddly squat, and now Jonnu Smith is catching screen passes for 60 yards in regular season games with Arthur Smith as his head coach and calling plays and stuff like that. But there's some people that aren't particularly impressed with the way Arthur Smith has done some things. It's interesting. Kurt Warner is somebody who, I don't know, has got a gold jacket, Hall of Famer, was the quarterback for the greatest show on turf. I mean, what a great name for an offense, the greatest show on turf. The guy's got a movie. I mean, I don't have a movie. Mm-hmm. Do you have a movie? Hound?
Maybe.
LB?
Maybe.
No,
you don't know.
Maybe there's some random fan fiction out there of Hound. Who knows? But
you never know.
You never know. But it's interesting that there's not really anything like negative to really say about Kurt Warner. I mean, I'm sure
I'm like, he's one of the most, like, I would say probably one of the most respected, like, people, like, within the NFL realm, especially when it comes to commentators. Like, maybe he's not the most well known or the biggest, whatever, but it seems like everyone respects him. He always comes across as very respectful and like is a very like genuine person.
Yeah. And he typically tries to qualify anytime he's going to speak poorly about a particular player. I mean, they kind of get him because he's a quarterback. He evaluates quarterbacks, but he also evaluates offenses in general. And he did a piece on the Atlanta Falcons. And he did not talk very glowingly of it, but he talked honestly. And if you look at the numbers, it's not like the Atlanta Falcons have done much on offense this year anyways. Like LB said, the Panthers were 0-6, but had the highest points scored for in the division. And guess who's in that division? The Atlanta Falcons. So I don't know exactly how that ended up happening into being the case, but bottom line is Atlanta's offense, despite its pieces with Bijan Robinson and Kyle Pitts, which I get slept on and I don't understand. I mean, Cardell Patterson and Drake London, they've got some pieces out there. Tyler Algier, which doesn't get talked about enough. Jonnu Smith, obviously. But they've not played well. And I mean, it's not like they have a plethora of Hall of Fame quarterbacks walking through that door now that Matt Ryan's gone. Desmond Ritter's not really been the answer. I'm a big Taylor Heineke fan, and I think he should have been put in 3 weeks ago, but that's just my opinion. I'm not paid to run the team, but whatever. And Taylor Heineke played pretty well, put up 28 points on the board on an improving defense, and with a backup quarterback on the other side. I mean, they played decent, but they still lost. And they lost to a third string quarterback. So I don't understand. But I've been kind of hiding what actually happened. So Arthur Smith heard about Kurt Warner's not so glowing review of what I would assume he considers to be his offense. Right? Arthur Smith's offense is not good. That's what he heard from Kurt Warner, regardless of what actually was said, right? Sports Illustrated put out a little article talking about this, and I'm going to read some of the things that Arthur Smith said about Mr. Warner's evaluation of his offense. He says he doesn't give a rat's, and he pauses himself so he doesn't get fined. He accused Warner of being guilty of issuing a hot take and then sarcastically saying, maybe he can solve some of the world's problems too. He also said, I think sometimes people get a microphone and the further they are away from the game, the more they feel like they know everything. Maybe they, along with Kurt Warner, can solve some of the world's problems.
Yep.
Lastly, thing he said was, I'm sure he gets paid lots of money for his opinions. And talking about other people's salaries is actually a violation of the NFL media code. So I'm sure of the little bit of money that I'm sure, just the pauper salary that Arthur Smith gets paid, some of it will be going to the NFL. I mean, it is just abhorrent, the things that he said. The Warner is welcome to come down here to our meetings. I would actually embrace that. And I love what Sports Illustrated said. We assume that Smith is once again being sarcastic and dismissive, and that's too bad. Smith would in fact be wise to exchange notes on the criticisms from Warner. So Sports Illustrated, I think, did a really nice piece on this. But one of our viewers asked us to talk about this, which is why we're talking about it and why it's kind of a meme. It's a meme because obviously it's absolutely ridiculous that Arthur Smith, who looks like he should be streaming on Facebook, I mean, or selling lawn chairs, like he does not scream NFL coach unless he was coaching the New York Giants. He kind of does look like a New York Giants coach, not gonna lie. That car salesman look, Yep. But at the same time, picking a fight with Kurt Warner of all people. Like, if you got a problem with Colin Cowherd, everybody's got a problem with Colin Cowherd. If you got a problem with Pat McAfee, most times those problems they're nitpicky, but yeah, you can have a problem with Pat McAfee. You could have a problem with, I don't know, Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, Skip Bayless. Pick anybody to have a problem with. Dan Orlovsky is a favorite butt of jokes for a lot of people having issues with criticism of quarterbacks and offenses in general. What do you gain from talking poorly about Kurt Warner? And when I looked this up and Hound did the same, Hound, what type of other things showed up when you searched Arthur Smith versus Kurt Warner? What are the things that you noticed on the results tab of such a feisty search?
Yeah, no, there's so many articles about Arthur Smith, but the majority of them aren't even about him talking about Kurt Warner. It's about other weird comments that he's made. One article says that Arthur Smith has committed the cardinal sin of making fantasy football fans look rational, which is kind of funny. Gotta admit. Head coach Arthur Smith's puzzling Bijan Robinson comments have fans furious. Head coach Arthur Smith is committing malpractice with his talented weapons. You know, so it's yeah, there seems like there's a lot of talk in Atlanta land about Arthur Smith and his interesting personality, to say the least. But I think when it comes to the Kurt Warner stuff, what I think it shows, like underlying it, is more concerning. Is the fact that your head coach, you know, is insulting and clapping back, as the kids would say, Kurt Warner. You know, like whatever. Like, I mean, I don't care too much about that on its face. But what I do care about is the fact that means that you are taking what Kurt Warner, a commentator, says personally. And, you know, you are clearly frustrated and thinking about those comments and you're peeved about it. And that's not a good place to be at if you're a head coach, you know, thinking what other people are saying about your team and listening to that criticism and being frustrated and, you know, trying to defend yourself. That's not a good spot to be if you're a head coach, right? You kind of have to drown out all of that noise, but it seems like he's actively listening and confronting all of these controversies. And that's not a good spot to be if you're a head coach. You can't get distracted.
I agree. I was just surprised when I number one I didn't hear about this until we had the listener ask about it. But at the same time, it was just one of those things where it's like, man, what else is he doing if this isn't like, because it's what he's saying is really spicy. Like, I would be all over this if I was the one doing this sort of yellow journalism, or however you want to put it. Yeah. It's one of those things where if you have given the media this much crap to talk about you, maybe you should shut your mouth. Like, honestly, like,
shut your mouth,
right? I mean, don't you think Will Smith said it best? You know, I mean, look, you're getting slapped around out there yourself, my guy. Like, why are you picking a fight with other people? Why? Because you can't beat up the bully that your team ends up getting bullied by every single week. Now I've heard that Atlanta Falcons fans sort of feel like you will win the division by default. I mean, Taylor Heineke's a baller, so he can keep you in games, but that defense needs to figure itself out because, I mean, dude, that defense is rough. Let me tell you. And
yeah, especially when you give up a freaking game-winning drive, and it even came to that point with Josh Dobbs not even practicing with that team with the Vikings, and them losing to the Vikings with the guy they got off the street. Not the street, because he was on the Cardinals. But you know what I'm saying. Basically, he might as well be, because he went on the team and had no chemistry with him, and they lost to the Vikings. So anywho,
yeah, no, it's crazy that went. You know, so just to kind of wrap up this little meme moment or meme of the week, I just want to tell Arthur Smith, look, I don't know who hurt you, but you're getting in your own way. And it's not doing your players or your team or your subordinate coaches any good for you to be bad mouthing people who, frankly, are much smarter than you. I'm just going to put it bluntly. And, I'm sure, what? Here's the thing. If you have a problem with me saying it, go ahead. Go ahead. Talk bad about the No Punt Intended Sportscast, okay? We will get more views because of your ignorance, and we would greatly appreciate that. So, you know what? I was going to say, you know what? Shut your mouth. You know what? Keep talking. We'll keep talking about you too. We're Bears are boring now. Let's talk about Arthur Smith.
Now we turned into a pro Bear show.
Yeah, I mean,
just the Tyson invasion.
A little bit. I mean, Matt Eberflus is not exactly on my nice list right now, but I mean, look, man, Tyson Bagent is a dog. But how
the turntables have turned.
Yes, sir. And speaking of dogs, it's that time. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our Dogs of the Week. I know he didn't win the game, but he played well. Are you putting Tyson Bagent as our first ever 2-time Dog of the Week?
No, I'm not. His second half was a little bit rough. He looked like a rookie in that second half, but his first half was great. So again, there's stuff there to work with, and I think he's going to have a good career in the NFL. But a Dog of the Week. Actually, this one could be a 2-time. I don't know if I've done this one yet. We'd have to check the recording.
Check the receipts.
Check the receipts. Nonetheless, I'm going with C.J. Stroud.
There you
Texans
go.
Quarterback having a career and historic day in their win. Set a single game NFL record for passing yards by a rookie with 470 yards.
Jeez.
In his Week 9 win against the Buccaneers. He threw for 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and balled out, throwing a game-winning tutty 10 seconds left in regulation that ultimately won the game 39-37. Hey, good for you, bro. Keep it going. You're a baller. And if the Texans get hot and string some wins together and playoff contention, this man's going to be an MVP. I promise you, he's going to be in the MVP category in that conversation. He's got to be. He's playing phenomenal. Now, a couple things have to happen for that. They have to win some more games and be relevant at the end of the season, unfortunately. If he continues on this trajectory, hey, put that man in MVP conversation. I think it's only fair.
That's fair. I agree. Hound, who do you got, my friend?
So my Dog of the Week kind of goes back to some capper facts we mentioned a while ago. In a previous episode.
Oh, nice.
And
nice.
That is Joe Burrow. Cincinnati Bengals defeated the Buffalo Bills 24-18. A much anticipated game. Because the last time these teams met was in the playoffs, and the Bills didn't have a great time there. So everyone was kind of curious to see what would happen with these teams, because it's kind of a tale of two teams. The Bengals started off bad, but now are looking up, while the Buffalo Bills kind of started out like their normal self, but then has kind of plummeted over the last month. And it's continuing that way with Joe Burrow passing for 348 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had an excellent week. Also, it kind of signifies the return of the Bengals.
I agree.
Which saddens me a little bit, because as a Chiefs fan, I'm not a big fan of the Bengals. But I'll admit what is true is that the Bengals are back into contention. They are in a tough division. So again, if I remember right, what I mentioned in that capper fact is the Bengals are back. But does that mean that they win their division? Who knows? Because you've got the Ravens, who look like perhaps the best team in football, to be totally honest.
That's a little bit of a hot take. I like it.
But but I think the Bengals will give them a run for their money. And the Bengals just have to kind of bounce back after they've had 2 division losses early in the season. So tiebreakers are not going to be in their favor. So but I think everyone agrees that the Bengals are back to their original form. with Joe Burrow. Their offense looks like they're doing good. Their defense seems to be doing good. Who knows whether it's the Bengals defense that impacted Josh Allen more, or if it's just Josh Allen being Josh Allen and doing Allen-y things.
Facts.
But yeah, Joe Burrow's looking good. It appears like he's healthy. He's a healthy little boy, and he's throwing some good TDs and yards.
Heck yeah. So that's great. I have somebody that I actually did not talk very highly of in our Capper Fact. Not that I didn't think he was a good player, because I think he's decent, but my dog of the week is going to be Josh Dobbs. Coming in the first half of a game and not having practiced, but having an extensive, long conversation with Kevin O'Connell about the offense and, what girls they like, I'm sure, but it's just he just is a baller, man. He's kind of got that Sam Howell, Baker Mayfield, like, just he wants to win, and whatever he's got to do to win, he'll do. He had 7 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown. That's almost a 10-yard average. He was 20 of 30 for 158 yards and 2 tutties, no interceptions. I do think he had a fumble, if I'm not mistaken. Either him or the other guy did. But bottom line is, he played relatively. It wasn't always pretty, but he did just enough for them to win. It's not like that defense is anything to really be afraid of anyways, but at the same time, he wasn't supposed to come in with no practice that week, coming from a different team, and end up beating a team that, as at that particular point in time, was looking to take sole possession, I think, of their division. So that was rather impressive. I watched the last drive, and there were several times when I'm like, well, this game is over. Like he wasn't going to win the game, and he just found a way. Every time they needed a play, he'd either find a guy open or he would run it in or something. Like, he always found a way. So congratulations to Joshua Dobbs.
Well, one thing about Joshua Dobbs, he was like a rocket scientist on the field. And actually, let me rephrase that. He is a rocket scientist. He actually graduated with a degree in aerospace engineering, and NASA gave him the best nickname I've ever heard, as the Pastronaut.
Nice.
So, he graduated with a degree from Tennessee and a degree in aerospace engineering, which would allow him to be an astronaut or a rocket scientist if he wasn't playing as a quarterback, which is very funny.
That is big brain.
Yeah. That's why he has no more eyebrows. They all fell off because of how big his brain is, taking up all the energy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say because he was too close to the exhaust of the rockets that he was launching. They just
too close to the sun.
They just singed off.
Yes,
wow.
It could be.
Yeah, there's meme of the week part 2. But yeah, so congratulations to Josh Dobbs, to I can't keep Tyson Bagent out of my head, CJ Stroud, and Joe Burrow as our dogs of the week. And with that, now it's time for predictions. You're not going to hear mine because New England has a bye, so this is just going to be the LB. And
I thought you were just refusing to do them because you've had enough.
No, my record is actually pretty decent now because I got Miami and the Commanders right, with New England losing to both of them. So I think I'm 7-3 right now.
I think I've lost 2 in a row.
You have. So
what if you're not predicting the future, but you're manifesting it?
No, because
you are your own team's downfall. Maybe have you?
You're listening to Aaron Rodgers.
I went to deep dark, and then I just manifested all this losing because that's what I wanted.
Yeah. Well, see, you just need to be more positive about what they could do, and maybe they'd play better.
I promise I'm the only one saying that there's still work to do this season. I promise you I'm the only one saying that. Everybody else in New England wants to get rid of the best head coach of all time, a first-round quarterback that has done nothing but get abused during his time there and blow up what could be a potentially really good team if a couple more offensive weapons came our way and people got healthy. I'm so sorry that Bill Belichick can't kiss an elbow and his entire team gets healthy. That's not how it works. Well, I wasn't going to talk about New England, but I guess I am because there you go. So the Chiefs are on a bye this week. But next week, the week after that, they will be playing at home on Monday Night Football, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
So what is that going to look like, Mr. Hound?
So this game's kind of a highly anticipated game. That's why it's on Monday Night Football. Kelsey Bowl Part 2. Rematch at the Super Bowl. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of tensions in this game between the two teams. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a little bit of a shoving match somewhere in there. But my prediction is going to be 24-20, the Eagles.
Oh,
actually.
You're picking against your Chiefs.
I'm picking against the Chiefs mainly because I think the Eagles will want it more.
Fair enough.
Because like the Chiefs' motivation in this game is to basically just win. It's like win, continue to win. But for the Eagles, they've got a deeper motivation that the Chiefs beat them in the Super Bowl and made them look the fool. But so they've got, more bulletin board material, if that's what you want to call it, more deeper motivations. And I think that'll carry them to a 24-20 victory. I think it will still be very close, but, I think because of how physical the Eagles team is, having that extra motivation will really help them.
Fair enough. I think the Eagles are not as good as their record is, so I personally am a little surprised at your pick.
Again,
I respect it.
If this was like a playoffs or something where both teams have strong motivations to win, of course. But because it's like, again, of course the Chiefs want to win every week. Obviously, no team doesn't want to do that. But I think the Eagles just have they've been thinking about this game all season.
Right.
So
I hear you.
Anyways.
I hear you. Well, this is the first time you predicted them losing. So
that's true.
We'll see how that goes for you. You've just been kind of spamming the W's and getting W's all the way to I think that puts you at 8-2.
7-2.
7-2 for the year, and puts me. I believe I am 7-3. If I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, and we'll see what happens. I did pick the Colts to beat the Pats, by the way, 31-20 for this week. LB had, based on who played, and Tyson looks like he's going to play. So you said 20, actually crossed out the wrong one. 27-20 loss for last week for your Panthers, losing to the Bears in Chicago. But what say you about this week next week, excuse me, against, why is this not showing up? The Cowboys.
Oh man, that's going to be ugly. Carolina loses 42-13.
Jeez. I mean, you're not. Yeah. I don't see you being wrong, but jeez. Jeez Louise, that's going to be a rough one. Not much to say about that one, right?
I think the Bears, not to change subject, I'm not changing my prediction. I just want to go on record and say I think I'm wrong ahead of time. I think there's not going to be that many points scored. Carolina still loses. I just wanted to put that out there. That I don't think these teams. I don't think it's gonna be 47 points scored. I think it's gonna be much lower. But
you never know. There might be like 6 pick sixes or something.
There could be, man. Honestly,
yeah.
Carolina loses either way. It doesn't matter. They lose. Carolina might win one game this season. I'm not even kidding.
Fair enough. Fair enough. The one thing I will say about my New England Patriots is I'm taking a mulligan on my record prediction. I have them going 5-12. They'll end up
a little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit different from 10-7, but that's still relatively optimistic. That means that they go like 3-5 for the rest of or 3-4 or something for the rest of the way. So. Yeah, we'll see what happens. That's probably even wrong. They'll probably be worse than that. But that's all we have. We went a little longer than I expected to go. Probably not going to break this one up because that'd be just a pain, to be honest with you. So you're welcome for the long pod. Go ahead and check Hound out on his channel. He's started putting out a few shorts, which are actually relatively entertaining. So I'd go ahead and check those out. He teaches you how to be the best YouTuber, which I've been doing it all wrong. So
hey, my goal has always been to be relatively entertaining. So I'm glad that you said that.
You're one of the better kept secrets on YouTube. I'll give you that for sure.
Nice.
And LB is the one who runs our Instagram. So go ahead and hit him up there and ask him some questions and flame the Panthers. And I don't know if
roast the Panthers.
Yeah, flame the Patriots, flame the Panthers. I don't know if he kept doing it, but if he did, the amount of tears that are on me and his little meme thing is there's a puddle. It is a lot of tears of all the losses.
I'm gonna have to end up photoshopping us on like the Hoover Dam or something and like it breaking through because
the Hoover Dam.
Yeah,
it's atrocious.
It is. We are like a penguin. We have not flown. We have only sunk. So
that's awesome. That's a great quote. That was awesome.
I've never heard that. That was completely off the cuff. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that was as off the cuff an ending as you could possibly have. Like and subscribe because we don't deserve it. See ya.
Peace.
Thank you for listening to the No Punt Intended Sportscast. Be sure to check out the Thinking Hound and to like, share, and subscribe.